What's going on, everybody? I go by the name of Curry, and I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on SneakerPhetish. All right, guys, today we have an interesting discussion topic, and I really want you guys to sound off down in the comments because we've been talking back and forth a lot about what kind of sneakers to get, what the right sneaker is to get, what resale is looking like on different kinds of shoes. But one thing that we really haven't talked much about is the impact of sizing in sneakers and what that looks like, not just in terms of demand and availability, but also, of course, in terms of the resale market. So without further ado, let's take a look at a couple of sneakers that I picked up recently. I think it'll help kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. Boom. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Nike Air Force One New York versus New York. Now, first things first, obviously, this shoe is pretty big. There's a size 15 in this shoe. Now, again, I got this size 15 for a reason, but before we get into the sizing of the shoe, let's actually take a little deeper look at the shoe itself. Now, even though in colorway and execution, the shoe seems pretty simple, the New York versus New York Air Force One is actually one of two recent Air Force Ones that Nike recently dropped, paying homage to the different leagues that are on both sides of the country. The Drew League over in LA, and of course the New York leagues that have different tournaments and different events over in New York every year. Remember, we just recently talked about the Rucker Park Air Force One and how impactful Rucker Park is and that tournament is. Well, there's also other tournaments and other Pro-Am leagues that are going on in New York at the same time, and all of those New York teams battle each other and have all these big tournaments every year, and that's why they call it New York basically versus New York. All New York teams versus New York teams. All right, starting with the upper of the shoe, it's a classic Air Force One low top, black swoosh here, but I do like the little stingray-like leather here. It's very smooth, but it's not as textured as stingray, but the print here reminds me of stingray leather. So just that little extra touch here makes the swoosh feel a little bit more premium. I like that. Now, obviously the big selling point of this sneaker here is on the lateral side on the heel, the New York versus New York swoosh emblem. And taking a top-down look at the sneaker here, this is dope. So the first thing you'll notice again is the Dubré on the bottom of the laces that says New York versus New York in kind of that concrete looking gray steel color. The theme of the hardware on the sneaker kind of looks a little more grimy, kind of like New York, and I like that. Now, if you notice, there's also a Velcro detachable tongue tag here that says Gersh New York versus New York. Now, Gersh is just one of the different events that happens in New York. As a matter of fact, there's also included a variety of these different tongue tags, all made out of Velcro, that you can swap out. And each one represents a different theme having to do with New York basketball teams, and New York street ball events. You guys see, you got everything from Uptown Challenge in there to the Dickman World there, Lincoln Park in the back. There's all these different things here, Tri-State, and you can swap them out to represent what part of New York you want to represent when you show up at these basketball tournaments. It's a super dope concept. I really like it. Now, as far as laces, regular laces here, but they have Nike on these metal tip laces that also matches that New York versus New York Dubré. So it's a nice touch. Outside of that, everything else about the shoe just is what it is. Black outsole, white upper, black insole here. Everything else is really, really simple. However, that's not where it stops. I also just received a pair of these in the mail. Now, these are a size 18 in the black and university gold Jordan 12s. That's a big shoe, man. Like that's pretty ridiculous how big that shoe is. This size 18 is pretty insane. If you know any NBA players that need a size 18, tell them to holler at me. Now, on top of that, we also have these. Now, this here is the new Yeezy 380 Boost Blue Oat, or the Bloat, whatever you want to call it. This is a size 9 in these, and this is a size 13K in these. And the reason why, again, I'm showing you guys all these different shoes today is because I want to talk to you guys about sizing and why sizing matters. In sneakers today, you're starting to see a trend, especially if you're a reseller or if you're the type of person that just tracks how much you have to spend on a sneaker because you recently took an L on it on GOAT and StockX. What you're noticing is that a lot of times when you open up an app, it shows you a certain price of a sneaker. Say, for instance, it's a low price. So if you look at this Air Force One or this Yeezy, it may tell you that the shoe is $150 or something. Then you open it up and all of a sudden the price jumps up to $300 specifically in your size. Now, to me, that's a little bit of deception by the apps to get you to actually open up the app and interact with the app and actually try to buy something before you realize the sticker shock that the price that you thought these were going to be is actually the price in a completely different size. But again, I think that speaks to a bigger issue that a lot of us are having out here when it comes to trying to secure sneakers. All sneakers are not the same, and supply and demand is certainly not the same in all sneakers either. What do you mean by that, Kari? Well, let me break it down. You have the Yeezy 380 Boost, and a certain kind of people, a certain amount of people may really want this sneaker, and a completely different kind of person may want this kind of sneaker. So it's up to you as a sneaker seller, a reseller, or a person that's even trying to copy yourself a pair to make sure that you really stay in the loop of who wants what. For instance, you may have a lot of people that have a smaller foot that have a really big demand on this sneaker. They want this sneaker, and maybe people that have bigger feet aren't really feeling the Blue Oat Yeezys. Then again, these are pretty ugly, so a lot of people who have smaller feet don't really want them either, but that's another topic for another day. However, you may have an OG sneakerhead that has a much bigger foot, that may be from New York, that may like this classic uptown kind of silhouette, and the demand may be a little bit higher, but people who wear size 9s, they may not want these as much. You really see this a lot in women's sneakers these days as well. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but the more expensive prices on the women's drops that have recently been coming out have all been in the bigger sizes. Why is that? In my opinion, it's because a lot of men want to get their hands on this shoe. Now, again, I understand that it's not just men that wear larger sizes in a lot of these shoes. Sometimes it's women that have larger shoe sizes and they want to get their hands on them as well. But we all know that the competition gets a lot more fierce when you get above a 9.5 to a size 10 in a women's release. Now, this is why I love these platforms like StockX and like GOAT, because when you actually pay attention to the way that the prices are trending on certain sneakers, it makes it a lot easier to be able to comp certain sneakers that you may want. Not only that, but it also makes it a lot easier to make the most money on a sneaker if that's what you're trying to do out here in the market as well. Now, what's also really important to stay aware of is allocation. How many pairs of each size of a sneaker are being made for a particular release? I'm going to tell you guys like this: size 9s and 9.5s actually have a lot more pairs that are released than the really big pairs. Why? Because the company already anticipates that usually the biggest demand happens in those mid to smaller sizes on most sneakers, so they make more pairs of those than they do of the bigger ones. So if you're a really smart seller of sneakers out here, you may understand that because not that many pairs of a size 18 of a sneaker are being offered, the prices could go sky high if it's the kind of shoe that has a lot of demand on it. I mean, you can't even get a size 18 in any store. Stores don't even carry this big of a size. Normally the stores stop maybe around a 14, maybe a few stores may have a size 15, but name me the last time you saw a size 18 in a regular store. They just don't carry it. What that does is, if the demand is there, a lot of people who wear this size understand that they're gonna have to pay top dollar because it's so hard to find a sneaker that's in their size. A lot of sneakers are never even made in a size that this big. So again, it's a bit of a gamble if you're a reseller, but it can really pay off for you if you choose the right shoe in the right size. So I guess today's video is really for the resellers, and I just want to give you guys a couple of tips while you're trying to figure out exactly what size to go for in a lot of these sneakers out here. Pay very close attention to what exactly is dropping and in what size. I'm going to tell you guys like this: a lot of the bigger size shoes that I've seen, and the people that like to wear the bigger size shoes, don't normally go for the weird, different kind of stuff like the Blue Oats. A lot of the people that tend to wear the bigger sizes, again, that I've seen, like wearing kind of the classic colorways, the classic OG colors. That's why if there's an OG retro that comes out that Nike wants to make a ton of pairs of, like a Concord or a Bread 11, or even these, even a really dope simple colorway like these retro 12s here, you're gonna see these produced in those huge sizes because they know that the demand is gonna be there even in that size. So when should you go for what kind of size? Well, you should always go for what they call the money sizes. And the money sizes are basically anything that's under a size 10. So what that means is anything from around a size 7 or 8 in men's to a size 9.5 in men's probably is going to be worth the most amount of money most of the time. Now, that has to do with men's releases. In women's releases, you're going to need to go a size 10 and up in order to make the most money on a shoe. That's just where the demand is. But if you have an OG, if you have a classic colorway, if you have a classic sneaker, your Concords, your Bread 11s, your Bread 4s, sneakers like that, you can go a little bit higher. You can take that gamble with a bigger shoe because chances are it's going to pay off in your favor. So to answer today's question, in my opinion, does size matter when it comes to sneakers? Absolutely, size matters. And if you're somebody out here that wants to make some money in sneakers, because let's face it, I personally feel like everybody's got a little bit of reseller in them. Some people just choose to LLC it and actually make it a tax write-off and actually make a business out of it. But there's so many sneakers coming out these days, it's really hard not to sell some sneakers, if not for anything else, to make more money to buy more sneakers. Because I don't know anybody that's just copping everything cash these days. If you are, more power to you, but it's a lot of stuff dropping out here. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of game today about what's happening out here. And on top of that, one last thing I want to leave you guys with as well. If you're trying to get your size in a shoe, sometimes it's a little bit easier to go for a different size in a shoe and to try to trade somebody, swap somebody, or sell that sneaker for a retail price in order to go back and get your size in a shoe that you wanted. So don't be afraid to venture out into other sizes that may still be available. A lot of people on the sneakers app, they go for their specific size only, and once it's sold out, they just shut the app down. Don't do that. Go for other sizes. Go for different sizes, even if they're not your specific size, and see if you can trade somebody or if you can sell that sneaker off, make the money, and get your own pair of sneakers that way. Because remember, everything in your size is available on StockX and Go. Just remember that. All right, guys, that's all that I got for you today. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of something out of this and this ridiculously oversized shoe. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of information, got a little bit of game today. And in the meantime, you guys can go ahead and comment down below. I want you guys to dialogue, talk about what you feel are some good purchases you've picked up in a small size or in a big size, what you guys have found to be kind of the sweet spot when it comes to selling shoes, buying shoes, what's an easier cop, things of that nature. Give each other some tips down in the comments, help each other out. That's what family does. Of course, right down in the comments, make sure that you click on that subscribe button so we can welcome you into the Sneaker Fetish family to make sure you don't miss out on any more heat that comes through like these, either big or small, because I guarantee you, I got a lot more heat on the way. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on Sneaker Fetish, taking a look at these with me, unboxing and wait me for a couple of minutes. I go by the name of Kari. This is the Nike Air Force One New York versus New York, and these are all the other shoes that we looked at today. And until next time, I'm out.